welcome to WoW Events by Ice Lighting. In this video I am going to talk to you about the Lunar Festival. So what, when, where, who am I talking about? So the Lunar Festival is a celebration about elders. So it happens all over Azeroth, and you will find it in your calendar somewhere around the 24th of January till the 7th of February, depending on what year we're in. Now, if you go around any capital city, you will find commoners, hecklers, heralds, whatever you want to call them, that will be talking to you about where to go and start this experience. So once you find your main person within the capital city, they will give you a quest, which is basically to join the celebration by launching some fireworks. Now you'll find the firework vendor right next to them usually, and you just need to fire off 2 different types of rockets from the launchers that are all around the main circle moonlight that you can see there. Once you've done that and you hand that in, you will be given your invitation. Now keep in mind these invitations only work in capital cities. It would be wonderful if you could use them anywhere, but no, you have to go to a capital city, stand in our big spotlight and press the scroll, and we get teleported to Moonglade. So I'm here! Now what? Well, basically, you need to make your way to the decking area and you will find quests and vendors. I say quests and vendors, there are 2 quest givers and there are 2 vendors. You'd kind of think for such a massive celebration, you'd have more stuff going on, but really everything's happening on this deck. So you have the main head honcho. This is the one that you're still following along and handing in this quest, and this one will give you a follow-on quest if you want it, the blessing, the Elune's blessing. Now this actually results in an achievement. I will go through this in the achievements, and if you turn around there is another person behind you, and this one has a whole bunch of quests, but they come one after another. So if you follow along with her quest lines, you will get a whole bunch of cosmetics, there's toys, there's lots of the currency that we're using. Now speaking of the currency, whole point is to go and honor elders. This is what an elder looks like. It will have an explanation on its head. You just walk up to it and complete that quest. Then you get the coin, and that's the first achievement. So, achievements, let's go through them all. Some of them are not going to be real quick to do. So you'll find them under World Events and then Lunar Festival, and you can see there's a whole bunch of them. So let's get started with the first one, which is talking about the coins here. So as you saw, we got the first achievement for 1 coin, and then that goes all the way up to 50 coins in increments. So next up, we're going to have a look at the firework ones. So this one's quite easy. You literally go back to that vendor you bought the original fireworks from, you buy the red rocket clusters, go over to a launcher and then repeatedly spam it. Just spam it as quickly as possible, and you will need to have had 10 of these, and once you have finished all 10, the achievement will ding. So the next one's similar thing, but this is with the firecrackers. So this one you actually have to point and click. So you're going to need 10 of these, and what I did was I dragged it onto my second bar so that I could spam the button and spam the mouse at the same time. So pointing it on the floor, and then it was spam, 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 spam. So once you've made it through your 10, it will ding. Ta-da! So now we get on to the really confusing and annoying part. This is the Elders of Kalimdor. Now, each one of the Elders lists I have done a video for. Now, they cross over because you've got Elders of Alliance, Elders of Horde, you've got Elders of Dungeons. So, in this particular section, I'm just covering Kalimdor. I've started at Winterspring, Felwood, Darkshore. I'm going to jump over to the Darnassus area and get the Dolinar one, but you can also grab the Darnassus one, which is for the honouring the Alliance while you're there. So I recommend planning a route, or at least double checking which achievements, because you've also got the Cataclysm ones in here, which I've put under the Cataclysm list, which you could do as you're going around. So I'll try and make as much sense as possible as I go through them and tell you when you can do another one. So for example, there was no elder for Desolus, but there is a dungeon in Desolus which has an elder, so you could have done that dungeon on your way down. So now we're down to Sithalus, so you could carry on going down and do the Oldham ones for Cataclysm, but you don't have to. You can come back to that if you wanted to. And now in Tanaris, there is also the Zul'Farrak dungeon that has an Elder in it too, so you could do that one at that point. So now we're heading back up, and as you make your way through the Barrens, we're going to take a quick jump into Mangalore, but you can then do the Thunderbluff one for the Horde at that point. Now jumping back over to the Barrens and the Crossroads and Ratchet. I mean, you could use the Ratchet if you're Horde and flop on over to Eastern Kingdoms and then Razor Hill, but of course you could go from Razor Hill up into Orgrimmar as you are making your way to the final one of Azuna. But of course it doesn't have to be the final, because you could go up to Hydro and do those ones. Right, so on to Eastern Kingdoms, exactly the same thing applies. So I'm going to start in Booty Bay, but because this isn't a big enough landmass to go up one side and come down the other, I'm going to cover all the bottom ones first and then the ones at the top. So these ones are a lot better for flight point wise. Again, as you're going through Goldshire, you could pop into Stormwind and do that one. Then Swamp of Sorrows doesn't have one, but it does have an instance that has one in it. Obviously, we're here in Syrian Gorge and Burning Steeps, and in between those two, you have Blackrock Spire and Blackrock Depths. Both of those have a dungeon one. Now we're up to Kranos, and of course, Ironforge is just above it, where you could go get that one. Now, as we're coming past Loch Moden, obviously there is the Twilight Highlands ones. You could go and do those ones. Now we're jumping all the way up to the Sculpture, and this one is currently an issue. The Brill one is missing at the time of making this video. Checked with multiple characters, there is a bug raised. That one is missing, so you can't finish that achievement, which is really annoying. Now this one's hidden in a cave, so you need to actually make your way down and through, and you will find it just around the corner here. So it's a bit of a sneaky one, but pretty easy to get to, especially if you are a high level, because these things are all real low. Now on the top of Scholomance, so not inside it, but on the top is where you will find that one, and then we're into Eastern Plaguelands. Now Eastern Plaguelands ones are a little bit sneaky again. There's one inside a tower, and of course you have the one you could do in Stratholme in the dungeons if you wanted to. So now I'm going to move on to the Cataclysm ones, which you may have done as you've done that, but here are the locations for you. So the first one in Hyjal, there's two in Hyjal, is right next to the entrance that you come in. The next one is over at the Sanctuary of Malone. Now if you make your way to Oldham, you will find this first one hidden here, and the second one is all the way over here. Now we're over in the Twilight Highlands, and you will find one here and one over here. So next up is Deepholm, and you will find one on the main entranceway as you go in and out of the temple, and the other one is hanging out over here. Now this one in Vash was a little bit more complicated, as this character has never been here, but it turns out that I can swim all the way down and see it without a problem. So now we're on to Elders of the Horde. So the first one is in Orgrimmar, and you will find it just here next to the flight points and portals. Next up in Thunderbluff, you will find it on the Elder's Rise, right on the edge, so it's quite easy to just grab. The Undercity one is a bit sneaky. It's not actually in the Undercity, as in the underneath. It is top level, just inside the ruins, just inside the door. Moving on to Elders of the Alliance. So the Stormwind one is nice and simple. It's outside the front gate, so you can just grab that one. Ironforge, however, is always more complicated. You need to make your way all the way through to the Mystic Ward. So next up is Darnassus, and this one is sneakily hiding out in the Centurion Enclave, so just round the back there. Now on to Elders of Dungeons. So I'm going to show you where in the dungeons each one is, and also where the dungeon is. So I'm going to start with Maraudon. This one, it has a gate here. You go all the way down, and then you need to make your way through the instance to here. This is where you will find that Elder. Next up, we have the Zul'Farrak one. The entrance to Zul'Farrak is here, and once inside, you just need to make your way to here, and this is where you will find the Elder. Next up, we are on to the Swamp of Sorrows, and you will find the entrance here, and if you make your way through, the Elder is hanging out just round the corner here. Next is Blackrock Depths, so you just need to make your way down and into the Law, the Ring of Law. That is where you will find the Elder just standing in the middle. It does mean you will have to do the fight, but it's pretty simple. Next is a Blackrock Spire, so this is the one under the bridge, so make your way through, and it's really early on. You'll see it like literally really early on, and you don't have to kill any bosses or anything, just walk across the bridge and there you go, done. Stratholme. So this is where Stratholme is. If you do not know where it is, this one you have to make your way around to here. Now on to the Northrend ones. So this first one I'm doing is Utgard Pinnacle, so that is the top one. Now this one you need to make your way all the way through to just in front of the room for the last boss, and the stairs that usually everyone falls down, you will find the Elder hanging out underneath those. Now we're going to use Utgard Keep, which is the one below, and this one was relatively early on, just after the first boss. Next up is the Nexus, so that is here. It is in the bottom. Just go down to the bottom instance and you will find the right one. You want to make your way to the area full of woodland and trees and stuff, and he is there. Next up is Nurub, and you just want to head down here, and then just after the spider boss you throw yourself down into a big hole. He's hanging out by the water. Now we're on to the Halls of Stone, so make your way through to this area here. Don't have to kill any bosses, you can just make your way straight through there. So now we're on to Drak'Tharon Keep, and this one is over by Big Dino Dude. Now we are on to Gundrak. This one, you can literally avoid all the bosses, jump in the water, swim over there, and it is just hanging out behind the second boss. Now we're on to Elders of Northrend. So again, you could have done half of those instances while doing these. I've tried to keep this in some kind of logical order. So we're starting with the ones in Borean Tundra, and obviously when you're overdoing the Caldara one, you could go in and do the Nexus. So my journey then took me through to Dragon's Blight, and of course down here there is the instance one that you can do to add to your list, and from here we're going to head back up to Sholazar Basin. So Sholazar Basin only has two. You will find one in the very center, and you will find one by the rapids. You won't find any in Icecrown, so your next option is to go and grab the one in Wintergrasp. Now this one's a little bit complicated because you need to own Wintergrasp in order to get inside here to come and actually do it. So my journey next takes me over to Storm Peaks. Now over in the Storm Peaks there are quite a few of these guys to come and honor, and also do not forget that you can go and do the Stone Halls dungeon to add to the dungeon list that you're doing. Now one of them is a little bit complicated. This one here, I say complicated, it's just sort of hidden. It's inside the building, so you may not notice it if you fly over. You have to actually come in and round the corner. So off we go to Zuldrak. Again, there is an instance that you can go and do. In fact, there's two instances in Zuldrak. Then head down to the Grizzly Hills. Now there's no instances, but this is where you will do your final three because there are none in the Howling Ford. So now we're on to the very, very, very simple ones. So Elune's Blessing. So you've got a quest to do this. If you weren't here to kill the dog thing, it's okay. You just have to stand in the moonlight and you get the blessing. Then you go and hand it in. Handing it in will give you a toy and the achievement. So it is worth doing, especially if you don't actually have to kill anything. So last on our list, the Lunar Festival Finery. And literally you just use those million tokens you have collected to buy either a suit or a dress. And as soon as you buy it, you get your achievement. So it's nice and simple. Now there is actually a top level on world events for the Lunar Festival, but it requires you to do absolutely all the achievements, and with Brill actually being unable to be completed at the moment, you can't finish the Eastern Kingdom one. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is toys, pets and transmog. So there is actually only one pet available and you will find it from this vendor here, and it is the first item available, which is the Festival Lantern. He also sells some cosmetic stuff, but mainly you want to come to this guy who will tell you a whole bunch of recipes, and on the last 2 pages are a whole bunch of toys. Front half, back half, some middle pieces of dragons and fireworks that last forever, and there's also a hearthstone on the final page as well as some heirloom items. So as always, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching and subscribe to see what else I'm up to.